Thanks for downloading our first 2021 off-season episode of the Orange is Orange or Browns podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network. This off-season, we'll be featuring a different Browns backers club at the start of every single show. We're doing this for a couple of reasons. One, the Browns have the absolute best fans in the land and the world, and we want to recognize the faithful and the loyal all over the world. And we have this incredible network of people who gather together and experience this team week in and week out. And we want to highlight these communities. Also, secondly, these groups do incredible work in their communities, and we want to highlight all the good they do and how they help people. It's truly remarkable. Our first featured Browns Backers Club is the Chi-Town Browns Backers, located in Chicago, Illinois. Led by club leader Jake Wolkoff, this club meets at Old Crow Wrigleyville Bar at 3506 North Clark Street, Chicago, Illinois 60657. The Chi-Town Browns Backers are active in their community with their annual Christmas gift drive for the Union League Boys and Girls Club, Paws Chicago, Habitat for Humanity Chicago Projects, and the Breast Care Foundation. The Chi-Town Browns Backers raise close to $10,000 every year for these organizations, so that's off to you all. Excellent work, Jake, and the rest of the gang at the Chi-Town Browns Backers. You can follow the Chi-Town Browns Backers on Twitter at ChiTownDogLB, LB for pound, at ChiTownDogLB, and Chi-Town Dog Pound on Facebook and Instagram. And don't forget, they meet at the Old Crow Wrigleyville Bar on North Clark Street. They hope to see you there. In this episode, Jeremy and I interview Meghan Donovan, the Assistant Director of Communications at Kent State Athletics. She joins the show to help us recap the Browns season, share with us what it's like growing up the daughter of Jim Donovan, and to explore the growth of podcasts in the media industry. It's a great show, a ton of fun. Meghan was fantastic. Jim Donovan, take us away.
45-40, run, William, run! He's got blockers in front, 5, touchdown! Joshua Cribbs! Snap back, ball down, kick block! They block the kick!
This is the Orange is Orange or Browns podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network. I'm your host, Chase Smith, and with me, as always, Browns insider Jeremy Powell. Jeremy, you just told me you blocked me on Twitter. What's going on, man?
So it's funny. I've done this before. I block a good friend and I wait to see how long it takes him to text me. So I haven't been on Twitter much. I was busy and I blocked you. And then I just forgot about it. And then as I saw your face on here, I was like, oh, I blocked Chase. I wonder if you never said anything, so I didn't know if you knew or not.
I had no clue.
So if you would have went to my page, it would have said you're blocked. It would have been a funny prank. Anyway, Chase, excited about the guest tonight. How about this? One more game in the NFL actually completed their entire slate of games this year. Remember, we talked before the season. We did not think that was a realistic possibility. Yeah. And they did it in time. Props to the NFL. They got it in time, unless something crazy happens the next couple of days, which I doubt. And pretty impressive, really, if you think about it. All that had to happen for that to happen.
It really was. And by and large, a pretty healthy season as far as COVID. They did a good job of keeping players, at least it seemed, prioritize their health. COVID wise. But Jay, this is our first episode of the offseason. I wish we were still doing our playoff blitz, Browns in the Super Bowl, but alas, here we are. And to help us recap the Browns season, we have the Assistant Director of Communications for Kent State Athletics. She's going to talk to us about the Browns season, what it's like growing up a Browns fan in the future of media and broadcasting and radio. Ladies and gentlemen, Meghan Donovan. Meghan, welcome to the Orange is Orange or Browns podcast.
Thanks, guys. I'm super excited to be on.
Awesome. We can't wait to hear from you.
We are super pumped to have you. So let's talk about this. Let's just talk about the Cleveland Browns, because all three of us love the team. We breathe the team. We I don't want to say obsessed, but we love the Cleveland Browns. And so they just finished one of their most successful campaigns in almost 3 decades. Let's talk about the season. This is the first kind of episode of the off season. Meghan, you're the guest. We want to ask you, what was one of your favorite moments from this season?
Oh, man. I mean, I don't even know how to explain this season. I just feel like it was just like a magical season. And especially with just like the crazy year that we all went through and this team had to go through. But honestly, the greatest moment, I have to say, is getting that playoff win against the Steelers and like a full force Steeler team. I mean, that was like the nail in the coffin. That's got to be one of the top games since the Browns have come back since '99.
And I don't think that's hyperbolic. I mean, they had practiced all week. I mean, it was really just all in their favor. There were other Browns like reporters going on Steelers radio like mocking the team and like just not even giving us a chance. Meghan, I think that's
right. And I mean, like, we didn't have a coach, we didn't have certain players, it was wild. And I mean, the way that they won it, I couldn't even believe, I still can't believe it.
it's pretty crazy. Jeremy, is that Steeler win seem real to you?
Yeah, it's crazy, and I echo everything she said. It's incredible, the set of circumstances to get to that point and then to win the game, as we've talked about a lot of times. I would say though, Chase, my moment, I would say when I knew things were a little different, I thought the most magical moment was when we went into Dallas and beat Dallas in that crazy game. Because at the time, Dak Prescott was playing out of his mind. People
MVP,
forget that he was the MVP of the league through 4 games, and we went in there. We didn't know how bad their defense was. But we went in there, we ran the ball for over 300 yards. OBJ, all our stars made plays. It was that day I kind of thought, you know what, maybe there's something to Stefanski, and maybe we're in for a ride. But I would agree that the magic moment was beating the Steelers. But I think the Cowboys game was sort of the catalyst to maybe something special was happening.
Yeah. I think like definitely the apex of the Browns season is that 28-3 first quarter, like of the Steelers playoff and the victory. I mean, you cannot, I mean, unless Super Bowl, like that's really, really, really hard to beat. That was also one of the most fun quarters. I mean, we were screaming, running around the basement, doing all sorts of stuff during that, like the first quarter of that playoff game. So I want to talk about a couple, I think the Cowboys game is an important game, and that Tennessee game. The Cowboys game, and Meghan, I don't know, your thoughts on this, but that was some of the best, like comprehensive complimentary football I've ever seen the Browns play up until that point. It was just remarkable. We never seen the Browns team do that, come in with a plan, execute it, and then like play complimentary football on defense. It was remarkable. That was, I'm going to say, one of the most fun games because we didn't expect it. But I think one of my favorite moments, if it's not going to be the series, that Tennessee game where it's just like, this is something that we can do against good teams. I mean, that was they went to the AFC Championship and they should have been to the Super Bowl. And that's a good team, a great coach. And we just had our way with them. Meghan, when you're watching that Cowboys game, did you think, this is what we're going to be like the rest of the season?
Yeah. I thought it was kind of weird at first. I thought we were seeing like a totally different side of Stefanski. There's all those trick plays and you're like all those things that Odell did. And I was like, wow, like, that's pretty cool. Like we haven't seen it in a while. And I just thought that game was probably one of the most complete games that the Browns had played at that point of the season. I mean, you mentioned the defense was still, there, and just offensively. And I was like, that type of game really made me excited. I was like, hey, all right, we're like really starting to roll here. And I mean, I was pretty hyped after that. So.
Totally. Jay, were you surprised with the Tennessee looking back?
Tennessee was a game where we put the whole league on notice, right? Because going into that game, the knock was we hadn't really beat anybody. At that point, we did know that Dallas's defense was and after Dak was injured for the rest of the year, they kind of fell off. So yeah, the Tennessee game is where we put the league on notice. It was kind of a coming out party for Baker. Everybody talked about, including us, leading up to the game, that it was going to be this slobber knocking, ground attack. Whoever's running back comes out on top, and then boom, Baker comes out, touchdown, 75-yard touchdown to Donovan Peoples-Jones. 4 touchdown passes first half. That day right there, we saw what we could be. We can be a team that can run the ball when we want to. We can be a team that can pass the ball. Coach Stefanski talks about being multiple, being able to do all, run the ball or pass the ball effectively, use the run to set up the pass or the pass to set up the run. If you can do both of those, you can be a pretty unstoppable offense. And I think that's where we're headed. But yeah, so the Titans game, the Cowboy game to me was the one where I thought, okay, this is different. The Titan game was the one where the rest of the league said this is different, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So we did kind of like this, like your favorite moments of the season. Let's talk about the moment you were most worried about the team, Jeremy. I'll start with you since Meghan, you kicked us off. Jeremy, the moment you were most worried about the Browns this season. I have a couple in my mind that I want to bring up here in a little bit. See what you can say.
Probably, I was at all the games, but the 3-game stretch where Baker didn't throw any touchdowns, but the weather was awful. But then you say, it isn't Cleveland. You have to be able to play in the weather. I thought maybe in that stretch, even though we won 2 of the 3 of those games, we lost to Oakland, we beat
Texans.
the Texans, and we beat Philadelphia in that 3-game stay. But that's because the offense kind of bogged down. Chubb had efficient stats, but relied on a couple big runs in those games. Remember the stiff arm run against Philadelphia?
And that's the Philly game. He didn't score. That was the no Moss run, right?
No, that was the Texans. That was when we were up 10-7. It would have covered the score. Remember, we were up 10-7. He went out the bounce at the 1-yard line.
Okay,
that was against the Texans. So both those games, he had pedestrian games minus those long runs. The offense wasn't really clicking, but the weather was horrific. Ironically, I was sitting for the Texans game and the Raiders game 3 rows in front of where Jim Donovan was calling the games. I actually talked to him before the game, both games, because I couldn't sit in my normal seats because of COVID, and they actually moved the booth from where it normally was. So the booth was down by like the 10-yard line, and it was a little booth. So you had Doug and Jim and Chris and these guys all kind of jammed in the booth right in front of me, and Jim, being the great guy that he is, said hi to my son and was super nice and all of that. But those 3 games after that stretch, I was a little worried about the offense, but obviously we bounced out of it.
Meghan, was there a moment you were like, what moment, I'm sure, were you the most concerned or worried about the team?
Yeah, I mean, I would have to say those games where like our defense just completely collapsed and gave it up. Another good game I thought was that one against the Bengals where Baker came back and won it. But it came down to like, Jesus, like our defense just gave that game away. And I felt like it kind of started, and I know like the circumstances of injuries, but then there was like that Baltimore game, the Monday night game where, we came back and we had it, but and all we had to do was hold them to like behind the 50. And, it just, those types of games where I just kind of was like, all right, like our defense isn't the greatest right now. And it's kind of upsetting because, they can't, stay on keep them off the field. So I was just those types of games.
Yeah. Meghan, you hit one of mine. The most concerned or worried I've been, now Jeremy's following. I just got another. Jeremy's now following me on Twitter.
I unblocked you and I followed you back.
One of the times I was most concerned was the start of that Cincy game at Cincy when Baker threw a pick, and that was
season ended.
Right. Yes. Also, OBJ got injured, so you have all of this.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Baker! Like he hadn't really put it together yet. Like he hasn't really I think he had up at that point 5 or 6 interceptions.
And listen to this, Chase. This is pretty funny because I posted on Facebook during that game. He started off 0 for 6 with an interception, remember?
That's right. Yeah.
And I said, Baker's done. This is over. Time for a new quarterback. And then he proceeded to hit 21 straight passes.
Yeah, you finished like 21 straight.
Brought us back 5 touchdowns after I declared him done.
I was working on our basement, getting it refinished and remodeled, and had the game. I was like, oh my gosh, like, we're going to lose to the Bengals. Like we should win this game. Baker, like we don't have a quarter. Like I was just like, probably the lowest I've been this season was that first drive, 0 for 6 pick, Joe Burrow's cooking, it's just like, this is going to suck. The other low moment I was the right before week 17 kickoff against the Steelers, knowing that the Ravens are going to take care of business. Like I was like, oh my gosh, and that was more of I want to make the playoffs. Like, I don't want to blow this. And if Mason Rudolph comes into Cleveland and beats us, I'm just going to be so embarrassed. Yeah. Like that was like a really worried moment. But that Cincy game, I think was my low. That's where it was, Meghan. If you were to look at the roster, look at our positions, just on paper, and you have this year to pull from, what position do you feel like is our strongest position?
I think at a main position, I would just say the running backs. I mean, you got those 2 duos in Chubb and Hunt. I think a lot on the offensive side. I think that we can finally say like we don't need to rebuild the offense. So I would have to say those guys. I think the line is great as it was. Minus the whole like COVID and injuries of the line and all of that. But I think those 2 are pretty big up on the list there.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think unless you want to go quarterback, But
Yeah,
Jeremy,
true.
who's the what's the position of strength you have for the Browns?
There's only two to pick from. We have the best offensive line in the league on paper, according to PFF. We have one of the best lines ever graded by PFF. We're the first line, I believe, in the history of PFF to win the award for the best pass blocking and rushing line. So the line, but then you got Chubb and Hunt. You got two guys that could be a bellwether for any team. Two guys that are arguably top 10 to 12 running backs in the league. So I think it's the offensive line followed closely by the running backs. And I think it's good because, for years, if people said that the one thing about John Dorsey, that he had a blind spot for the offensive line. So it was almost like the Browns came in and said, look, if we're going to make an investment in the quarterback, we've got this running back. We have got to fix this line. They spent big money on Jack Conklin. They drafted a left tackle. You fixed your tackles, and then you lucked into Wyatt Teller, who is now, him and Quentin Nelson are arguably the two best guards. And I don't think it's arguably at this point. Pretty much consensus that Nelson and Teller are the two best guards in the league. You've got a rookie left tackle who was stepped right into playing left tackle at a high level. You have Jack Conklin, who was an All-Pro by the AP voted him first team All-Pro. So you have and then you have, and we haven't even talked about Joel Bitonio and J.C. Treader. Joel Bitonio, a perennial Pro Bowler, and J.C. Treader, just a steady center, a smart guy that is the anchor of that whole group. So the Browns offensive line is the best in the league. And guess what? Everybody's under contract for next year. I'm sure they're going to re-sign Wyatt Teller. And then so everybody's also under contract the year after that. So that's a group that's going to play together for a while and be together for a while. So I think the offensive line should have a lot of Browns fans excited going forward.
Did John Dorsey go with Dan Campbell in Detroit? Did I see that? Or
yeah, John Dorsey is he's not the GM, but he is like the player personnel director, one of those positions.
I mean, he'd be incredible in that position.
Sure, absolutely. Exactly. And those are two like football guys there. Remember, Dan Campbell was on the Browns short list. If you remember when they hired Freddie, it was Dan Campbell, Freddie, and Stefanski that were kind of the three finalists for that job. But yeah, that'll be a big time. Did you see what did it say? Like, I think they put on Dan Campbell's door. It's for his name tag. It says the dude or something, something like that. Like super football guy. If you watched it, he's like the antithesis of Kevin Stefanski. He is the exact opposite of Kevin Stefanski, but sometimes that works. There's not just one style that works.
That was the presser.
I will bite him. We'll get up and we'll bite him. We'll do whatever.
That's not going to die. That is going to stick around. Well, so Meghan and Jeremy, I hear you, and it's I think Chubb and Hunt and the O-line are easy answers, but I want to ask you guys this question. If you gave the 25 teams in the league, they could pick one player from the Browns for their franchise. They're not going to pick a lineman. Maybe two might pick a running back, but they're going to pick a quarterback. They're going to pick a franchise quarterback because it's a quarterback league. It's not a left guard league. It might be one in the trenches, but if you have a franchise quarterback, you are going to be relevant. You're going to win games. And that's just it. So like, I'm not saying that we don't have an awesome running back room or our linemen aren't amazing. I'm just saying Baker Mayfield has gotten the short end of the stick this offseason with a lot of Cleveland journalists. And I don't get it. I don't agree with it. Jeremy, you know how I feel about it. I was on Baker Island before anyone else. Ken Carmen laughed at me when I said we're going to draft Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, that's true.
But I just think he is one of the top 7 quarterbacks in the league. And if you have teams who can pick one player from our team to be on the franchise, most of them are going to pick Baker Mayfield.
I'll disagree though. I think I agree. I know what you're saying, and I agree that the franchise quarterback is the cornerstone of the franchise, right? So most people would start that. But if you're just asking me, if you are a GM and you can take one player off the Browns, I think Myles Garrett would probably be the player that was taken the most. I think there would be some that would take Chubb, a few. I think there's some that'll take Baker, but I think that if you're saying in that way, who is the best player on the Browns that other teams would take? I think Myles Garrett. He also plays.
I didn't say best player because I think Myles Garrett is amazing.
You said, but who's well? So is your
the
question,
strongest
Jason,
position, the strongest position on the team.
Strongest. But I'll disagree. Then if you're starting if your question is, are you starting a franchise with one player on the Browns, who is it be? Some would take Baker Mayfield because he's the franchise quarterback. But if you're saying what is the strongest position group or positional team, I don't think you can say,
Case Keenum is the best backup in the NFL.
Unless you're weighting the position by quarterback, it's just not a fact. Look, if you're going by like the best position on the team, it's either the offensive line or the running backs. Me and Megan are right. Chase, you're wrong. Own it. Shut up.
Megan, is Case Keenum not on the short list of best backup quarterbacks in the league?
Listen, don't kowtow to him. We're right, Megan. We are right. Don't kowtow.
Yeah, I'm just weary. I'm a little weary on the whole like quarterback. I mean, like, yeah. I think he had a great season. You can't take that away from him. But I mean, I still like. There's still like some things where I'm like, I don't know. But yeah.
And that's fine. I don't know if this would have been my answer last year, but I think what Baker showed this season, I think what he showed in the playoffs, I don't know what else a team wants in their franchise quarterback.
Right. I'll tell you this season we saw rookie Baker Mayfield again, which I was hyped for that.
I think Baker Mayfield's career in Cleveland will last longer than Nick Chubb's.
Well, yeah, that will, because of the nature of the position. And
I think it'll last longer than Kareem Hunt's.
Well, no doubt.
I don't know if it'll last longer than Myles Garrett, but I think it'll last longer than probably 3/4 of those linemen you mentioned, Jeremy.
Wills has a shot to be, left tackles can play 12 to 15 years.
Yeah. So
he could be there, and they'll probably, left tackle is another one of the premier positions. But how nice is it, Chase? I'll give you this. How nice is it that the 4 premier positions in the NFL right now, they say are what? Franchise quarterback, franchise left tackle, franchise pass rusher, franchise corner.
Yeah.
It looks like, barring injury, we have those 4 positions, and now we build around that, right?
Sashi
Brown.
So look, I'm not saying you guys are wrong. Running back, yes, we have an incredible, we have a stud stable back there, right?
No doubt.
O lineman, every team would want our O line, without a doubt. They would take our 5 unit right now.
Yeah. There's not 3 teams in the league that wouldn't trade with us as offensive line right now. There's maybe 2 that think they're in the same shape we are.
I'm just saying, I think Baker, we can't not say we have an elite quarterback room with Baker and Case Keenum. There's not maybe Colt McCoy for half a game. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, that's even a terrible backup.
I just think you're doing mental gymnastics to say that it's the best group. Okay. I understand the importance of quarterback and obvious, but I just think if we're going straight best group, it's offensive line, running back.
The Saints are the only NFL team have a better quarterback room than us. Who's Aaron Rodgers backup? The rookie? I don't trust him.
Bryce Love.
Tampa. Yeah. I mean, Henne got it done, but I would rather have Case Keenum over Henne.
But if you go get the entirety of it, of course you would take Patrick Mahomes and Chad Henne over Baker Mayfield and Case Keenum, because most of the time your starting quarterback's going to play, and Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the league. I don't know that there's probably 5 or 6 guys I'd take over Baker now, maybe 7. There's definitely not 3 offensive lines I'd take over the Browns.
Yeah.
Well, that was fun though.
All right. One more. And I feel like this will, we'll agree with this. What's Jeremy, the Browns' weakest link? What's the Browns' weakest position on the roster that you're going to see them address this offseason?
It's most people probably say linebacker or safety. We don't know about Delpit yet. Here's why I'll say safety, because if you remember when we brought Joe Woods in, what did they say? He loves to play with 3 safeties. The safety is an important position to him. He likes a versatile guy as his third safety, a Delpit guy who can play in the box, can play free, can roll and play man coverage. We didn't have anybody like that. I remember Nathan Zagura said that at the time we lost Delpit, that the Browns the way they wanted to play defense was not going to be possible with the personnel they had. So I'm going to say the weakest position, because of injury and because of everything that happened, was safety. Now we've addressed it with Rodney Harrison. He's going to be a really nice player, but he's not the kind of athlete Grant Delpit is if he comes back at full speed. So I think at the moment, without Delpit, I think safety is our weakest position, closely followed by linebacker.
Safety. Megan, what do you got for our weakest position on the Browns?
Yeah, I'd have to agree. Safety and then linebacker, but I think now with the whole Olivier Vernon going down at the time that he did, I think we're gonna really have to find another pass rusher on the opposite side of Garrett, because I heard some things where I don't think Ogunjobi is gonna be back again.
I agree.
So I think that's pretty big, just as much as those two. I don't know, the whole defense.
Yeah,
Meghan-
for real. The defense needs a facelift. There's no doubt about it.
Yep.
And Troy Hendrickson is someone that people are talking about. I don't know how much he's the defensive end from the Saints at 13.5 sacks this year. He might command more than we can pay, but who knows? We'll see what happens in this offseason.
Meghan, great pull with the D line there. Just want to throw this out there. Kicker, is that weak? Maybe not weakest, but is in the conversation.
I'll tell you, Parkey was a lot better than we thought, right? Remember I said he was really great at missing. He's a great he's a great no pressure kicker. There's no doubt. But he hit every kick in that Steeler game, right? He hit every kick in the Kansas City game.
He did redeem himself from that
I agree,
Jets game, or I think it was the Jets, right? He missed I
think that they'll probably bring him back, Chase.
Yeah.
Maybe with competition, but I think he'll be back.
We can expect a lot of defensive focus this offseason. Maybe some more O-line depth. Remains to be seen what happens with the receivers. I just to throw it out there into the podcast world, I'm pro Jarvis, and I want to see OBJ and Orange and Brown. So obviously that's where I stand. A lot's been going on Brown's Twitter since we recorded last. But hey, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk to Meghan about her life growing up as a Browns fan. I cannot wait. Stick around. It's going to be good. I want to take a few moments to talk to you about one of our sponsors. You may have heard of them before, Manscaped. Manscaped is the absolute best in men's below-the-waist grooming. You know, fellas, you got to take care of the nethers. And it's no longer taboo to talk about it. More men do it than, true story. Last month, I had made a terrible mistake. You see, I have a set of identical trimmers. One I use for my beard and face, and the other one, for my below-the-waist grooming. Well, after I had trimmed my beard, I was all done. I went to put my trimmer away, and I'd realized I had used the wrong trimmer. Yes, one of my worst fears was realize I had used my pube trimmer on my face. Oh my goodness, it actually happened. The worst. I knew right away I had to get a new trimmer, one that was specifically designed for my most sensitive areas, and Manscaped came to my life at the perfect time. I went and got myself a Lawnmower 3.0. Listen to this. The Manscaped engineering team spent 18 months perfecting the greatest ball hair trimmer ever created, the Lawnmower 3.0. Their third-generation trimmer features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology pioneered by Manscaped. And when I tell you this is premium, I mean premium. The battery of this thing lasts 90 minutes, so you can take a longer shave and make sure you don't leave any stragglers behind. It's waterproof, so you can even groom in the shower. One of the coolest features is the LED light, which illuminates grooming areas for closer and more precise trimming. Imagine spelunking, and you kind of get the idea here. Manscaped has also upgraded the Lawnmower 3.0 to a 7,000 RPM motor with quiet stroke technology. And at least you forget the charging stand to show your mower off loud and proud, because this intelligently designed stand is a convenient charging dock powered by USB. If you're listening to me speak right now, I want you to experience it firsthand for yourself. Go to manscaped.com today to order one for your very own. To get 20% off and free shipping, use the code ORANGER at checkout. Again, that's manscaped.com, promo code ORANGER for 20% off with free shipping. Manscaped, the best for below the waist men's grooming and hygiene. Now let's get back to the show. All right, Meghan Donovan is joining us here, and Meghan, you are more than just a fan of the Browns.
I am.
I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that your life has revolved around the Browns for a lot of reasons, but mainly because your dad, Jim Donovan, is the voice of the Browns on the radio.
Yes, it is. Basically since 1999 when the Browns came back. I mean, I've just lived and breathed the Browns.
So with a family unit that revolves around a Sunday afternoon kind of game, which has been normally when it's been 1:00. It's been a fairly maybe until the last couple years. I'm sure you've just have some incredible stories and just incredible access that a regular fan wouldn't have. Looking back, just what's been some really cool moments you're like, dude, that was awesome?
Yeah, I mean, so since I was little, my dad would take me to the games with him up in the radio booth, and then once I got older, I started like doing spotting for him, and then like doing some stats for him as well. But
Which
I would have to say probably the craziest. I think one of my first games that he took me to, it's kind of comical, was the Jacksonville Jaguar bottle throwing game,
my
Bottle
goodness.
gate.
and.
Yeah.
I think I don't even remember the year. I had to have been like 9 or 10, and it was like my first game.
Amazing.
And I just was like, what is going on? I mean, like there's guys like passing out right down below because they're getting like whacked in the head with like bottles and radios. And I mean, like I was just freaking out. I think when we left, my mom like called my dad and was like, hey, great game to pick to bring her to. Like it just wild.
Meghan, for people who don't know, what do you mean by he had you there spotting? Like,
Oh yeah. So
people might not.
Yeah. He makes these boards with like all of the names of the players. So basically, like say the Browns defense is on the field right now, we'll flip it to that, and you look out for like a tackle, and then you point to the name of who it was, just so he can get it as quick as he can
In real time. You're watching the game and you're pointing to who tackles who.
Yeah, and basically, and just like letting him know, like, all right, this like say like Kareem Hunton now is running back, so he knows like in case he can't see it, and just to let him know like what players are coming in and out pretty quickly.
Gotcha. How many people are in the broadcast booth with your dad and Doug, kind of helping them like do their thing?
Yeah, so usually there's so my dad, Doug, a spotter, and then a stats person, and then we have the two guys in the back, like one who just like produces the whole show, and then like the audio guy. So
that's
yeah.
Cool. That's really cool.
So have you met any players? Has your dad introduced you to anybody? If so, who was one of the cooler guys you met? What just a cool experience you've had of people you've dad have introduced you, whether it's a player, owner, or whatever?
Yeah, I've met like so many players. Honestly, one of the coolest players that I've ever met, and I was obviously really, younger then, had to have been Braylon Edwards. He was he's like one of the nicest guys, and he just would always like come over and be like, hey, what's up? And I remember the game that he tore his ACL in, and it was post game, and I think he did a press conference, and I would wait outside the locker room for my dad. And I remember he came out like on crutches, getting ready to like get into a golf cart because he couldn't walk. And I remember he came over and he was like, I'm going to be good. I'll be all right. Don't worry about it. I was like, that was the coolest thing ever.
Yeah. That's really, really neat. Meghan, is it weird hearing your dad's voice on the radio?
I'm so used to it by now. It does. I get pretty hyped, like especially like all of the postseason stuff when they started like using his calls. I was like, all right, like let's go.
Yeah,
heck yeah.
It had to be like this year, especially it's gotten kind of famous. When he says the only thing missing was all you here.
Yeah,
that's got to bring a tear to your eye, right?
It
knowing
does.
Your dad.
I saw it again the other day, and I was like, dang, that gets me like misty. And I was in the booth with them that game, and I was like, don't look at him. I was like, dang.
Yeah, and ironically, I was also sitting close to you guys that game. I was I was in that section right in front that game as well. But yeah, it's just got to be because a guy that's given he's gone through some tough personal stuff during his time with the Browns and health scares and all of that. So it had to be part of it for him too. Just all the time he's put in, his love for the team, his love for the city, just to finally see it turning around. It's got to be. Does he openly talk about that? How much it means to him, or?
Yeah, and I mean, like, he just with everything that he's gone through, the whole like, he battled cancer and he had to go through a bone marrow transplant, and I just remember like him coming back and just dealing with like the crappiest of the crappy Brown teams, and I'm like, dang, like, I mean, he invests so much into that team, and he gets so hyped, and especially this season for him to like finally like see it and be excited. I mean, it made me happy, and like you can definitely tell. I mean, he he really meant it, and he really did get like emotional in that game. The
A lot
Steeler
of
game
people
when we
did. Yeah.
clinched to go to the playoffs, and I mean, like he definitely was feeling it.
Megan, was ever a time where he was like, I got to tell you something, but you can't tell anyone? Like, is there ever a time you're like privy to information that you weren't supposed to know?
I mean, there's been like a few things, and I just was like, oh, okay, like wow, like that'll suck or whatever. But I think like he keeps to himself a lot. So yeah.
We had one time, Megan, we had a Browns employee tell a story on our show that no one would believe.
Yeah.
And then he made us erase it before we could air it.
Oh shoot.
So we would not be divulging that anytime soon, but it was a
Oh,
pretty
man.
unbelievable story. So me and Chase were talking a little before too. We bet I'm sure there's probably you have a story or two about stuff that you can't spill, but it's probably
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
darn interesting. Yeah.
Do you guys talk about the Browns at home? Megan, is that like, or is it just like
Yeah.
all
So,
about,
like,
yeah.
So if I don't go to a game with him, literally probably like 2 hours, we'll always like I'll call him on the phone, and we'll just do like this like hour recap. And then,
That's
like,
so awesome.
yeah, and then he does like this show on Sports Time Ohio, the Red Zone, and
Zone,
people call in, and I always like I can't watch it anymore because I'm cheap and I don't have cable, and they don't have it on Hulu anymore. So I'll call and be like,
Yeah, that's
so like who called you tonight? Were there any like wild calls? And like yeah, and then just like during the week, during like away games, I'll always like send them texts and stuff, like, and I'll be like, yo, like this, like great call, or like this is wild. But yeah, like I feel like that's all we do really talk about. He makes fun of me because like I have huge Cleveland Browns flags like hanging off my porch in front of my house. Like, I'll just like I'll post like really crazy videos sometimes, and
Yeah.
he's like, Jesus, you gotta get a hold of yourself. Like I drive an orange car. I told him if the Browns ended with a winning season, which they did, I was gonna get the stripe painted right down the front of the hood, and like
That's awesome.
So
Yeah.
Megan, I have a daughter. Okay.
Mhm.
She'll be 6 in May, and it seems that she likes the Browns. Now, true story, today on her own accord, I'm taking her to school and she's wearing a Baker Mayfield jersey all in her room. And I didn't like, that was just her decision. So Megan, I had this fear, and I still kind of do, that she's not going to grow up a Browns fan. And I'm not going to get to have those experiences with her of watching games together or cheering for the team together. So what do you think helped you to be a Browns fan? Like, what made it so positive, even though the team sucked? Like, give me some pointers to like help, because I don't want to like brainwash my kids. I want them to like enjoy the team, not just because they know I like it, but I want them to enjoy it so we can enjoy it together. And it seems
Right.
that you guys have this really cool connection, this really great relationship. So how did your love for the team become your love for the team and not your dad's love?
I mean, I don't know. I think just like I just had those experiences with him early, and even though like the outcome was just awful in the years that we went through, I mean, it just was still like always something that like even if how crappy they would play on a Sunday, like I just would be so hyped for a game. And I think too, like I mean, even at the end of the day when they were awful, like I would just have fun bashing the team and the game. And I don't know, it just something, just those experiences early on. I mean, I just thought it was great. I thought it was so fun to watch, and I just loved this team.
I was with like my best friend group. I was one of the first one to have kids, and we had a daughter first. We have a 6-month-old son now as well. But they said, "Hey, are you worried? Are you scared? Like, what do you? Oh, you got a daughter, all big stuff." I'm like, "Well, there's really only 2 things I'm concerned about, and I'm going to try to do. One, keep her off the pole. That's like number one, like keep her off the pole. And 2, like she can't be a Steelers fan."
Ooh, yeah.
And you know, like looking back, I let her stay up to watch the Monday night games. You know what I mean? Like allowing this, really making those experiences, moments that are with us, and the game doesn't really matter. But when the Browns were up 28-3, we were all running around the couch being like, those are moments that, you know, she's going to remember, that, you know, I'm really, really excited about. I just think it's cool. And you know, that relationship you and your dad have is really, really special, Megan, you know, and you know that, and you, obviously you shared kind of like the health thing, like to cherish every single moment like that, and to just enjoy those together. I think that's really, really cool. And I'm happy for you for sure.
Oh, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hey, we're gonna take a quick break, and then we're gonna come back and we'll wrap this up.
Hello, Brooks here with the Books with Brooks monthly book club podcast. We read one book a month and then we talk about it. Books like Stephen King's The Shining or Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. If you're on the hunt for book recommendations and enjoy sparkling conversation, come read along with us and then listen in.
Hey everybody, it's Sam Amico from Cavs on the Break NBA podcast. Be sure to give us a listen for all your Cleveland Cavaliers recaps, analysis, breakdowns, draft talk, free agency. The list goes on and on. Give us a listen, Cavs on the Break NBA podcast.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Aaron Scheib, co-host of the Tim and Scheib Show. We're part of the Press Play Podcast Network, and we love talking college football. We talk everything from Florida Gators to the Ohio State Buckeyes. If you like college football, check us out. Thanks.
Hey, it's JD from the Hyman Podcast. Using a narrative storytelling approach, the Hyman Podcast was created to start conversations that need to be human. Week by week, I'll break down walls and barriers and make people wildly uncomfortable, all the while giving a voice to the voiceless and the marginalized. Consider this your personal invitation to be part of that conversation.
All right, Meghan, we're back. So you just shared this incredibly heartwarming story, how you and your dad are so close. You talk about the Browns. You have this really cool relationship. And not only did it draw you to the Browns, but it drew you to the media. It drew you to media. Meghan, tell us about what you do at Kent State and kind of how you realized, oh, I want to go into this field as well.
It did. Obviously just growing up with who my dad was and just being around it, I was like, I really want to do something in sports. And I went to the University of Akron, and I started off as like a student intern with their athletic department, and I just was like, I'll do whatever you guys want me to do. I will like hand out stats to people, and I just kind of got my foot in the door and realized like, hey, I really want to do something in college athletics. So I did that. I worked with them for a while, and then I went and got my master's there in sports administration, which like focuses in like on college athletics. And it kind of like led me where I am today. I work at Kent State now. I work for their athletic department, specifically like athletic communication. So it's basically just like the public relations side of what college athletics do, what they call an SID, which is just like a sports information director. And I handle like all of that through like our football, specifically men's basketball, men's and women's golf. So yeah, that's what I do. And I love it. It's pretty hectic, but yeah.
So you, a lot of behind the scenes work, kind of like making sure things are communicated properly with teams. And does that include like setting up transportation and like lodging or like what? Cause I don't know. I don't really know what that means, I guess, is what I'm trying to say, Meghan.
Yeah, so that isn't my position. So I'll do like all of our press releases,
Okay.
our like previews, post game stuff, organize like all of the press conferences. Big thing is like I'll like, especially for basketball, like we're really big on the game notes. So you have to do that prior to every game, every opponent. It's basically like a giant scouting report of both teams that like you'll send to like the TV talent, radio talent, visiting talent, anything like that, just so they can prep for the game. So that's pretty much what I do. Travel with all of our games. And yeah, obviously this year it's a little bit more complicated with the whole pandemic and COVID thing. So it's been challenging, but we're still rolling.
So do you someday aspire to work your way up into the like professional sports world? Are you, maybe the Browns and anything like that? Is that something that's a goal? Or are you just content with where you're at?
Yeah, eventually I kind of want to like do something with like in like a P5 school a little bit bigger.
Sure.
Obviously something professional would be great. Obviously the Browns would be fun. I always worry though with like professional teams, like the turnaround if they get like new leadership. So that would be like the only thing that would like freak me out. So
That's true. Cool.
For the first time in a while, though, we could say it looks like we might have stable leadership.
right, exactly.
So maybe now's the time to jump.
We're not looking for a coach or looking for a new quarterback. I think we're on the right track.
So Meghan, you've lived in this world. You have higher education, your grad degree, grad work in this world. Did you ever see the impact that podcast has on this medium, that it's like a viable like way for information and to communicate? It's podcast versus radio. Did you ever see it becoming like a thing like this?
Never. And honestly, I've really like seen it kick off like in the last like 2 years. I felt like it's really gotten big. I mean, I listen to sports podcasts like all day, every day. I think I listen to them more than I do like sports radio, and it's probably not a good thing to say, like, but I really do. I think it's something that's just like really making its wave. It's obviously something that's like into like really hype for, it's easy to do. I think it's, there's just so many different niches that you can go with it versus just like, just like plain old like sports radio. I think it's definitely going to be like something that is going to be like into the future of like what, and expanding on something like that.
And I think you nailed it. If you want to find 90-minute talk about computer printers, well, guess what? There's probably something out there. You know what I mean? Like, it's so like genre specific, and for people who love the Browns and want more content and to consume more content, it's perfect. It's perfect. And it's, we've actually had people who are, on local Cleveland, whether they're on the beat or other stations, that they were told they couldn't come on our podcast because
we got too big for them,
because of the people that we pulled, because of we're competition. And we were just like, what the heck? We're just,
yeah. Literally there's a station in town that has told its people they're not allowed to go on podcast anymore because that's competition. One thing I think going forward, it's so big, is everything now is like condensed into little sound bites, right? But the cool thing about like long form podcasts is you can come on and actually hear what somebody actually thinks outside of like the 30-second clip you get on Twitter or on Sports Center. I think it's just people are there's a thirst for like actually hearing a developed conversation about what someone thinks in anything, whether it's sports, whether it's political, whether it's religion, whatever it is. I think there's a huge market for that, because I think that kind of got left behind in culture the last few years.
Yeah, absolutely. I think too, it's very like storytelling based. I think you really get that like emotional appeal with it just as easy as, anything else you could do.
Yep. Yeah. No, I never expected podcasting to kind of take a chunk of like culture and the zeitgeist as it has, how it's just like, it's not going away. It's here to stay. And so it's a matter of how to work with it and not try to go against the grain. Because it's a viable way to report, to do journalism, to do talk radio. This is essentially what we're doing, right? Is we're talking about a team that we love, and it's great.
We're doing it though, like I said, one more thing. We're doing it though without the constraints that like a regular radio station has, as in time, as in hitting, you have a specific amount of time. We can sit here and talk as long as Meghan or you wants to talk. We can develop what we think without the constraints of regular radio. And I think that's why it's sort of taking off and kind of beating down terrestrial radio.
Yeah. Meghan, have you ever thought about starting your own podcast?
I have, like, jokingly.
Why jokingly?
I don't know. I don't know if I would be able to like continually do it with you. Like, I'm not like to make it actually like really good. But I think this is crazy, because I will say something. Like, my mom absolutely is not a sports fan, and I know that's like really weird to hear. But like, since my dad's been he works from like home now a lot, just with the whole thing, and he's been doing a lot of these types of like Zoom like interviews and things, and she honestly, it was like right around Christmas, and she's like, I think you should really get into podcasts. And he was like, yeah, maybe. And she's like, no, like, well, it's just like, we'll build you a room and we'll get it all ready to go, and you can just do your own podcast. And I was like, now that would be legit. I'd get on board for that.
I would as well. I would. No, you're we took a couple of sound bites of your dad's calls, and it's part of our intro music. So when you listen to this, you'll hear some of your dad. I think we have like Run William Run. Jeremy, do you remember what else?
Run. He's at Run William one. Oh, block the kick against the one win and 1 in 15. We've got the block. He blocked the kick.
Yeah.
We got those in there.
We made our intro like
4 years ago now.
Yeah, I mean, Megan, we started this pod the year that we won 0 games. So 20.
So we did a weekly, bi-weekly, some weeks 2 shows a week with 0 wins. I mean, think about that.
I don't know. All power to you guys. That was just
brutal.
like
your dad won some game balls that year. Is all I'll say. Like,
I mean, man, that season made a bunch of people alcoholics for sure.
Right, Megan. Listen, I've been to almost every game since the Browns have been back. I've been to every game for I don't know 6-7 years. I've been to 100+ games. I had a game during 0-16. I went to myself because I could not give away a ticket. I literally said, well, I'm just going to go myself. I called 30 people like, weather, we're good. So I went up there and sat there by myself. Incredible, right?
Man. That's sad.
Never again, though. Never again. Now we're back, baby. This has been absolutely fantastic. Want to give shouts to Manscaped. Don't forget to go to manscaped.com to take care of yourself. Make sure to use promo code Oranger at checkout to receive 20% off and free shipping. Shouts to the Press Play Podcast Network for making this possible. Thank you, Press Play. Visit us on the website at pressplaypodcast.com. Follow us on Twitter at PressPlayCods. Also, shouts to this episode's Browns Backers Club, Chi-Town Dog Pound. Jake Wilkoff, what's up, guys? Thank you so much for doing what you guys do, for making just making opportunities for people in the Chicagoland area to support the Cleveland Browns. Follow them on Twitter at Chi-Town Dog LB for pound. Also Chi-Town Dog Pound on Facebook and Instagram. We'll have those links in the show notes as well. And Megan, of course, Megan, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was great. Great fun.
Where can we follow you on Twitter? Like tell us.
Yeah, you can follow me. It's Megan D44. That's the Twitter.
Sounds great. Megan D44. Will do. Jay, thanks for following me again on Twitter, brother.
We're back, baby. Hey, I want to thank Megan too. That was a ton of fun. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks. It was great.
We look forward to maybe in the future we'll get back with you and have you back again and talk some more Browns.
Absolutely.
Jeremy, final thoughts, brother?
Just it's kind of funny. I was actually thinking about it here. I just looking forward to the off season. For once we can go into an off season where it's kind of like it's gravy, whatever ends up happening, right? Because we have our foundational pieces in place. So whatever the team can add from here on is gravy. We're gonna have some fun off season shows. It's gonna be a fun time leading up to the draft and going into next year as possibly the favorite in the division. Just a fun season coming up, and we're finally back, and it's finally all positive.
Love it. All right, guys, we'll catch you here in a couple weeks. We're still trying to nail down this really fun episode, so stay tight, get your popcorn ready, and we'll catch you then.
Here we go, Brownies. Here we go.